And we're back. Hello, fellow savages. It's been a while, right? I did a video a few weeks ago, said I wasn't going to be on here too much and had other things to do. So I've been doing those other things. The novel is coming along nicely. I'm very happy with it. It's a time-consuming process. I don't have a lot of time to do it. And I'm working on a laundry room. And laundry rooms are like bathrooms. They're like little houses. I mean, the amount of work you have to do is like a house because it has to be electricity, hot and cold water, drains, lighting, all this stuff. So doing a laundry room, converting a space into a laundry room. So at least I didn't have to do any building. So that's taking my time as well. And I'm happy to be doing that because we need to make some changes here. The topic today is El Nino. And why am I back? So, well, as predicted last time, I did this last time in April 24th. So it's been about a month, right? This is now the 27th. Yeah. We're now May 27th. And it's been a little over a month. And things have changed. And there's been a lot more press, as predicted. You're going to hear even more about this. You think you're sick of hearing about El Nino now. Oh, please. Oh, honey, just wait and see what they have in store for you. And with good reason. The people are going to be completely freaking out this summer as the summer progresses. There's a level of freak out right now that is both completely warranted, understandable, and completely over the top. And yet, as warranted as it is, and as over the top as it is, and as ubiquitous as it is, the coverage of El Nino just continues to fall short, as predicted. I mean, they will. I'll predict it now. They'll continue to fall short. So once in a while, I have to come on here and why am I doing this? Well, I picked up a few subscribers while I was away. My wife was doing videos, and I guess you liked her stuff. Great. Come back for more of her at some point. If you really like her stuff, leave comments on her videos so that she knows what you like and why you like it. And maybe she'll be back on here. In the meantime, I have this to talk about, so I guess I better get on to it. So, El Nino. For those, I mean, how could you not know what El Nino is, right? Can I give the elevator pitch at this point? Is that okay? El Nino is half of an oscillating system. The other half is called La Nina, and it's really easy to get the two messed up. And I do it on here frequently. I probably will do it today. El Nino is the hot phase of the swing, the pendulum swing, and La Nina is the cold phase. La Nina, if anything, is the normal situation because it's normal trade winds in the central equatorial Pacific blowing hot water west into South and Southeast Asia, and that's what gives them their tropical weather, their monsoons, and all that's normal. And then sometimes, periodically actually, the trade winds die. And then all that hot water that has been pushed, and it literally, the wind is blowing the water so consistently that it starts to pile up in South and Southeast Asia. And as the water piles up, well, when those winds stop, the water just sloshes back to the east like water sloshing in a bathtub. So you get sudden, well, I would say unexpected. We now understand the La Nina El Nino oscillating cycle, also called the ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. We now understand it well enough to say, okay, it's not really unexpected, but it is a bit unexpected in terms of timing. Oh, and intensity. So, and all the time that this is going on, there's a whole other thing going on, which is completely separate. The ENSO was discovered by scientists, 40 years ago. It had been going on for hundreds of years before that. Fishermen in Central America in Peru knew all about it, and they knew what it meant for them, and they're the ones that named it. So scientists came along later and said, doing ethnography, essentially, doing some anthropology. What do you mean there's a cycle? What do you mean the fish are here sometimes and sometimes they're not? What do you mean it occurs periodically? So the scientists starting out with asking some questions, came back and did some analysis, and they discovered that it's a pendulum swing. So the indigenous peoples were right. They knew something. And this is not uncommon. All you scientists out there, pay attention to the people on the ground. Listen to the people on the ground. They know something. Often. So we know it's a swing, but we don't always know what the intensity is going to be. And we know within a latitude of error when it's going to be and how long it's going to be, but not what the intensity is going to be. We also, more recently, I got a little sidetracked there. More recently, even though the ENSO has been known for essentially hundreds of years, more recently we have another phenomenon that's quite apart from that, but is related, kissing cousins related, and that's global heating. So whereas the ENSO is a pendulum that swings back and forth from a cold phase and a warm phase, and then the warm phase has huge impacts on global weather, and that's all true. That's why we care about it. There's also global heating, which also has huge impacts on weather. One of the huge impacts that we're having with the weather, let's see, I guess I should bring this up. I'm sorry, I really didn't prepare. It's been a while since I've done this, and I'm going to go, I'll just tell you what I'm doing here. I'm going to earth.nullschool.net, earth.nullschool.net, and I'm going to bring up the picture of the Earth. And I'm doing this off camera. Okay, I'll show you this in a minute. Maybe I should just show you this now. Let me go to my screen share. You can see what I'm doing here. Yes, so we are looking at the Earth. This is the North Pole, so I'm going to move the Earth so we can see the equator. You can see this line across the middle. That's the equator. And I'm going to change the projection of this Earth to this view. Okay, so this is the unrolled Earth. The Earth is a globe. Sorry, all you flat earthers out there. We're going to talk about the globe Earth today. And the globe Earth can be unrolled. Now, it distorts the globe when you do that, but we only really care about the oceans, which is most of the Earth's surface, and people don't have any sense of distortions of the ocean, so that should be fine. I'm going to go to my ocean view, and I'm going to go to sea surface temperature. So again, the equator is hotter than the poles. Duh. And how you read this chart. The purple is the hottest. Basically, they ran out of colors. So the dark red is supposed to be the hottest, but then they needed more heat because guess what? The planet's getting hotter. So they have to add more colors to the scale. And even there's even hotter colors on this scale than this. In fact, it goes into the white, believe it or not. So we're now in the magenta, and the temperature right here on this piece of the Earth is 87 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to switch that over to Celsius. 30 degrees Celsius in the water. And here's another purple water over here off of Mexico. That's 31 degrees C. And here's some hot water off of the Philippines. That's 31.7 degrees C. And just for contrast, to go up to Alaska, the water up here is, 0 degrees C. So it's just about freezing. Seawater doesn't freeze at 0, by the way. It freezes quite a bit colder than that. Nevertheless, moving on. Now, these are sea surface temperatures, but this is not what we're interested in. We're interested in what's called the sea surface temperature anomaly. Is 31 degrees normal, or is it too hot, or maybe is it too cold? So let's look at the anomalies, the departures. And then here's the oceans of the Earth. And here we can see that the Earth, I'll just tell you what this is. The Earth is undergoing a marine heat wave. All these reds, all these yellows, this is all hot. The black color is neutral, meaning it's neither hotter than it should be nor colder than it should be. And should be in this case means a long-term average from data. So black means it's neither colder nor warmer than it should be. And then the blue colors, like the purples, and here the light blues. You can see some light blues up here, like near Alaska. That means it's colder than it should be. So I'm clicking on this light blue up near Alaska, and I'm getting minus 3.2 degrees C. That's not the temperature. This is the departure. So right here off of Alaska, the temperature is about 3 degrees C, colder than the long-term average. So this is an anomalously cold place. But I want you to notice quickly, just look at this map quickly. You'll see there's hardly any place on Earth that's anomalously cold. Not in the north, not in the south, and certainly not at the equator. There's a lot of places that are normal. But what do you see mostly on this map? And if you're just listening and you're not looking, then I'll tell you what you're going to see mostly on this map. Orange, reds, oranges, and yellows. That means anomalously hot. And this map is dominated by, basically, this map, as far as the ocean surface temperatures are concerned, this map is painted red. This map is hot. This is a marine heat wave. And this marine heat wave covers virtually the entire planet. There's almost no part of the planet that is not involved in a kind of marine heat wave, one or the other. Now, the El Nino, let me get a drawing tool. I'm sorry, if you're listening to this, you're going to miss this, but I'll try to keep you updated. The El Nino region is equatorial, where they measure the El Nino. And this is a trick for meteorologists and climatologists, mostly meteorologists, who are studying the weather effects, the global weather impacts of the El Nino swing in the ENSO. So they had to go to a spot on the Earth where they could say, okay, we're going to study this spot. And the spot that they study, I'll outline it right here on the map, is about here. Okay? And they take the average temperature of the waters in that sort of area. It's really, technically, it's a box, but I don't have a box tool, so I have to put up with this. They take the average, and when they get the average, then they say, are we in an El Nino because it's really hot, or are we in a La Nina because it's really cold in this region, or what? But I want to point out that by focusing on this little narrow region in here and looking at the temperatures in here, you're kind of excluding from your analysis all the other red on the planet. We're having a global marine heat wave. On top of that, the El Nino thing, which is its own completely separate thing, except it's not that separate, is also happening. The El Nino is happening on top of a global marine heat wave. And the heat wave has gotten so bad that they've actually had to adjust how they calculate the El Nino, the ENSO number, to determine if we have an El Nino or a La Nina. The La Ninas were basically, the cold phase was basically disappearing. But they still want to be able to talk about it. So why do they care? Well, because they use it to forecast global weather trends and differences, and so they want to be able to talk about it. But they had to move the baseline. So I'm here to explain to you what they're doing, because you're going to hear all about El Nino and all this kind of stuff. They're going to say it's a strong El Nino. I'm here to tell you, they've moved the calculation so that a strong El Nino is maybe at best a moderate El Nino. They've lopped off the bottom data to move the average up so that they can recalculate the El Nino, so that they can still talk about La Nina and El Nino and the oscillation between the two. They had to basically invent a cold phase because the oceans are so hot. They had to invent a cold phase so they can talk about La Nina. Otherwise, La Nina runs a risk of extinction, and there's all going to be El Nino. But they want to talk about the swing between the two. So they had to reinvent the number calculation so that there could be a La Nina. You see what's happening here? It's as if you had two teams on the ball field, and one team is so strong that they get all the touchdowns, all the field goals, everything else. And so what you have to do to make the game interesting is you have to give the opposing team 20 extra points and take from the other team 20 of their points and give them to the losing team so that you can have a quote-unquote game. All right? Now, that's called handicapping. Golfers do that all the time so that you can have a, quote, game. So it's interesting. So if there's one golfer that's like so good that they blow everybody else away, you handicap the other people. You say, okay, we're going to give you so many points, and then this game is closer. It's not closer. You don't change the fact that one of the golfers is going to blow everybody away. You know, birdies, holes in one, and perfect putts, and never hits a sand trap, and all these other golfers, they're out there drinking beer and swinging left and right, and ball in the trap and ball in the weeds, and so you have to handicap to make the game, quote, interesting. So in order to keep El Nino and La Nina in the mix, in the discussion, so that it can oscillate back and forth and we can talk about it as an ENSO, an El Nino Southern Oscillation, they had to handicap El Nino. They're not going to tell you that. They're still going to have a very strong or even super El Nino, even though they've handicapped it, even though they've moved the baseline, even though they've swung some of the data towards La Nina conditions, they're still going to have a super El Nino. And what you have to understand is physics doesn't care. Physics doesn't care how you handicap the game. Physics is going to do what physics does, people. And what is physics doing at this point? It's been a month, right? So we can talk about that. I will remind my viewers that March in the U.S., I don't know about other places. I could do some research, but I'm a lazy bastard, so I'm not going to do that. You do it. March in the U.S. was the hottest March in the meteorological record ever. That's a month. Now, that doesn't mean that March was as hot as August, but March was the hottest March on record. And a lot of people felt it. And a lot of people said, oh, well, must be like spring. And guess what? The plants felt it too. And a lot of the plants came out with flowers and started setting fruit in March. And that's a bit too early to be doing that kind of thing. Like calm yourself. Okay, but the plants can't be argued with. And so they put on flowers and put on little fruits. And then there came a freeze. Because March, we're still having crazy weather. So there came a freeze at some point. It only had to last a couple of days, right? And it killed the flowers and killed the fruit. And now cherry farmers, horticulturalists, what are they? Ranchers? Cherry farmers and other stone fruit farmers are now saying, we don't have a harvest. Oh, that's interesting. Hottest March on record, you could have got an early start. Oh, but now you have nothing. Well, that's because winter came storming back. And yet, despite the fact there was enough cold in March to freeze the early fruit, despite that being true, we still had the hottest March on record for the lower United States of America. And before that, there were times when Alaska, the state of Alaska, was warmer than the state of Florida. And this is before El Nino, folks. This is just global heating. This is marine heat waves, changes in the jet stream, the collapse of the polar vortex, in turn collapsing the polar jet stream, the polar jet stream becoming unreliable, wavy, fractious, and bringing down Arctic air, and suddenly bringing up tropical air, and then Arctic air after that, and then tropical air after that. Record heat, record cold, then record heat again. And these events were like a week apart, or sometimes just days. Record snow, and then record rain, and then record heat. And people are noticing, right? And back in March, and certainly in April, when I did my earliest El Nino update, which is linked in the description if you want to go back in the Wayback Machine and enjoy that. Contrast that with this if you want to. And now we're further on. And it's hot, folks. It's hot. I said, back in April, it's going to get hot like you fuckers can't believe. Everything you thought you knew about summer heat, everything you think you know about your climate in your country, just set all that aside for a year or two. Because this could go into 2027 real easy. All right? Just set all that aside. Stop talking about what you think you understand. Now, your meteorologist, do whatever you want to do. Do I care? No, I don't. Who else doesn't care? Who else doesn't care what you think or what you do? Physics, okay? Physics doesn't care what you think or what you do. You can think it's all a hoax. Well, it isn't. And you're going to have to deal with this. You're going to have to deal with this. You can not want to deal with this. You can think it's a hoax. You can think it's all scaremongering. But it's physics. Okay? And what just happened? Was it this week? I think it was like Monday. Right? What is it? Today's Wednesday? Yeah, it must have been Monday. Monday, good old England, right? Good old England. At the Kew Gardens, they recorded their highest temperature. I have to be careful here. For May, I think it was what it was. If you're from there, you know what I'm talking about. Their highest May temperature for any May ever in the history of May at something close to 35 degrees C. Now, 35 degrees C. You can go to Phoenix, Arizona. It's hotter there on the same day. Well, yeah, but they're not built for this. Oh, and by the way, 35 degrees C. It was like 34.9 or something like that. 35 degrees C. Oh, and by the way, Since Monday, they've already exceeded that record. So it's gone over 35 since Monday. Well, let me just talk about Monday. The record prior to that was 2 degrees cooler. Normally, when heat records are broken, it's by 1/10 of a degree, 2/10 of a degree for one day. They're breaking their prior records by 2 full degrees C multiple days in a row. So what do you want to call that? You're going to call that something? You're going to ignore that? People in England were saying, "Ooh, this is great. It's like being in Greece in the summer. It's like being in the south of France in the summer. I didn't even have to go to France, south of France, to have warm weather. I'm now having hot weather, just like I was in Italy, right? Yeah, but you're not. You're in England. It's supposed to be cooler. Yay! It's like I'm in Greece. I didn't have to even buy a ticket. No, this is not something to celebrate. You're having some global heating. Oh, and maybe it'll go away, but maybe it won't." And the bigger problem, of course, is not that you got to have Greece temperatures without buying a ticket. The worst part is that the English countryside and the cities, London, all the other cities, they're not really set up for heat. They're just not, because they're not in Greece, right? Obviously, right? They're not in Greece. If you had a capital city or a big city or something in Greece, you'd be set up for hot weather because it's Greece. And the hotels would have air conditioning, and they'd have insulation on the walls, and all the modern building standards and everything for the heat in Greece, or south of Italy or south of France. Everything would be built for the heat because it's a Mediterranean country. The UK and England, they're not built for jack, right? They're built for fog. And they're really proud of the fact that their homes are made to store heat. To collect heat and store it. So they got all this rock and all this clay and all this heavy construction to store heat all the time. And they don't have any air conditioning, of course. Of course not. There's no air conditioning to speak of. I mean, some people have it. But some people who have it are having it because it's been getting hot in England in the last few years. So some people have gotten ahead of that, and in recent years, here we go, right? People paying attention to physics, have bought air conditioning, had it installed, did the whole thing. And of course, a lot haven't. So you're out in the ponds in England, and you're saying, "Yay! It's like I'm in South Italy, and I didn't have to even buy a ticket." Yeah, well, okay, and then you can't sleep at night because it's too hot, and then your elders are dying because they can't retreat from the heat. They've had 7 deaths in France, I think. Some of them due to drowning, believe it or not. People trying to jump into cold water. I mean, it's still May, all right? So the water is still cold. It's the air that's hot. So people go to the beach, they jump in the water, their body locks up, cramps up, okay? If you transition too quickly from hot to cold, because you feel like you're in Greece, and I didn't have to even buy a ticket. So now I'm in Greece. I'm going to do what I do when I'm in Greece. I'm going to be all hot. I'm going to take off my shirt. I'm going to jump in the water. It's going to be warm water. I'm going to splash around and feel great because I'm in Greece. I didn't have to buy a ticket. No, you're not in Greece. You're in England. And the water's cold because it's not the Mediterranean. Derp. Yeah, you think you're in the south of France. You're on the French Riviera. Didn't even have to even buy a ticket. Didn't even have to leave your house. You just go down to the beach, jump in the water. It's cold and it freezes you and you die and you drown. So some of those 7 deaths in France, we'll never hear about how many people died in England. Some of the 7 dead in France were from drowning because they jumped in the water and cramped up and drowned. Wow. Talk about unclear on the concept. People, physics is real. Physics is real. I mean, get some physics, okay? Get a clue. And if you don't have a clue and your chimp brain can't incorporate any more physics, all your physics you got was in 5th grade, you can't have any more physics. You're all physiced out. So no more physics for me. All right, well then listen to your physicians, listen to your epidemiologists, listen to your climatologists, listen to your newscaster, and hopefully they're telling you don't run down and jump in the channel on a hot day because you're going to drown. You'll be a dead chimp if you do that. Well, listen to those people. Of course, nobody will. Also happening, India is having record heat. Oh, India's always hot. Not like this, it ain't. No. Record heat. And I'm really worried about India. Another thing that happens to India, well, South Asia, so that includes Pakistan, and also Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, South and Southeast Asia, get really hot during an El Nino. They get really hot, and the monsoon rains fail. So they get hot and dry. Oh, and then they burn. There's a lot of vegetation in these areas, and it's highly dependent on the monsoon rains. That's how these places work, right? So if you withdraw the monsoon rains, then the vegetation starts to suffer. And if that goes on long enough, then the vegetation dries out and becomes susceptible to fire. So in past years, we've had simply colossal fires. Fires that are just heartbreaking in these places. Now, you never hear about it because, of course, it's Asia, and the English-speaking Western media, like, can you find these places on a map? On to sports, right? So they don't care. They're not going to tell you about it. But these people know. They know what's happening to them. And, here we go. We're going into a strong El Nino. Now, I've been hearing newscasters talking about trying to downplay this. And they're always going to do that. Meteorologists, there's something going on in their heads, okay? They are, by and large, climate change deniers. As a class, the meteorologists aren't buying any of it. Now, that's probably because their education is about weather prediction, and weather's predictable, and you have a job and you have a career and you're going to be predicting the weather and when that. And the reason you can predict the weather is because the weather doesn't change and the weather is predictable, and that's your career. And so they have this mindset coming out of college as a meteorologist that the weather is predictable. And this idea, God, someone's mowing outside. I don't think you can hear it. And so the meteorologist, as soon as someone started coming along, climatologists, other actual real scientists, started coming along and saying, hey, wow, global heating, this is going to be a real problem. We got real problems. The meteorologist just threw the brakes on. Nope. No, I'm not buying it, and I'm not going to talk about it. And as a class of people, the meteorologists are complete fuckwits. And now they can't reverse the course of physics, right? So when there's a big heat wave and 2 degrees C at Kew Gardens and above average, and a big heat dome over Europe, and people are dying in Europe from the heat, and who knows how many people will die. They'll probably never tell us because they're trying to control the narrative. Whatever they're going to do, physics is still going to happen to people, right? Physics is real. Physics, there you go. Physics, gravity, heat, right? Rain, tornadoes, floods, that's physics, atmospheric physics. So physics is going to happen. It's going to happen to people. And you can say climate change is a hoax, global heating is a hoax, but physics is not a hoax. Physics is real. And you can say, oh, it's all a hoax, it's all fear-mongering. It's still going to kill you. Oh, well, that's okay too, because when you're dead, you're not complaining. And that's what happens, right? The dead have no snoring. So it's okay to lie to people. It's okay to lie to people, because if they believe the lie and nothing bad happens, then that just reinforces the lie. See, nothing bad happened. I'm still alive, so nothing bad happened. And if they believe the lie but the truth kills them, well, they still don't have a story. They're not going to complain. Hey, you told me this was all a hoax, and then it killed me anyway. They're dead. They have nothing to say. So this whole thing works. This whole thing works. Well, I'm not doing that. India is having record temperatures. I think it's mostly South India. Folks, this is early days. The main El Nino event doesn't happen until later in the year, and that's kind of how it always is. It comes on in the spring, and then this is just Earth atmospheric physics. It comes on in the spring, and then it gets worse. It peaks out in the late fall, maybe in the early winter. So that's why it's called El Nino. The original fishermen named it after the Christ child, the little one. El Nino is the little boy. So they named it after the Christ child because it happens around December. So when they were going out to fish and the bad thing happened, I think the bad thing was there was no fish, or the fish were sick and not very usable. So they went out for fishing and they didn't find any fish, and they came back and they blamed it on Jesus. Okay, that's not what they did, of course. But they recognized that it was happening in December, and so they just named it after the Christ child. El Nino. So this thing tends to peak in, around there, November, December. Well, that's fine because having record hot temperatures in December feels kind of okay to people. I mean, it's not okay at all. And in the case of the fishermen, it's really bad because they don't get any fish. So there's problems here, folks. But if it happens in December, record heat happens in December, it's a record hot day in December, people are going to like, well, that's nice, right? That's what people are going to say. Hey, I can wear shorts and t-shirts on Christmas Day. That's nice. That's what they'll say. It won't set off any alarm bells unless they're a fisherman and they're going out to find fish and they don't find any. Then they come back alarmed. But if you're not that guy, and who is that guy? You're not that guy. You don't know that guy, so you don't care. But instead, on Christmas Day, you get to wear a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops, and you're walking around, stud monkey at the county fair wearing your summer togs, and it's December, and you're thinking, wow, this is great, and the alarm bells should be going off, okay, but they're not, because warm, 75-degree weather in December is a novelty, and it's exciting, and hey, let's go swimming or something, right? Well, be careful jumping in the water. It's still cold, all right? Manifestations of this is the snowpack here in the U.S., the snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is California, and the Rocky Mountains, which is the middle of the country, doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because to have snow, you have to have cold. And you can't have cold during global heating. So you end up not having snow in the Sierras and snow in the Rockies. Well, who cares? Well, of course, there are corporations that depend on there being snow up there. Resorts, right? Ski resorts. And if they don't have snow, they're out of business. And that's hundreds of thousands of people that depend on those businesses being open in the winter. Oh, you're overstating it. Oh, no, I'm not. There's no snow. There just isn't. And this spells the end of these industries. Also, that snow is important to provide summertime melt water to restore the rivers and reservoirs that are being drawn down in the summer for water. The snow in the Rockies and the snow in the Sierras would come down slowly, with natural melting, would come down slowly and restock the reservoirs so we could let water out of the reservoirs, use it for urban and suburban homes, and also agriculture, which I think gets, at least in California, gets 80% of it, right? So it's mostly agriculture, but that's food, so a good thing. Good use of a resource. And the snow would melt, and it would come down, it would fill those reservoirs, and we'd let the water out all summer long for the uses we need for it. Well, without a snowpack, all you're doing is you're just drawing down your reservoir. So by the end of the summer, going into fall, going into what we call around here the rainy season, your reservoir has been depleted. Now maybe you'll get a rainy season. And that's one of the things that El Nino can do. It can change your overall weather patterns, including bringing more rain. But it also brings more heat, which can also bring more evaporation, which can result in droughts. So it's a mixed bag. But we're already seeing this here in the U.S. They're looking at the snowpack, not seeing any snow, and water managers are having to address that. In my last video, I talked about how that will affect places like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Arizona. Heard of these places? I think maybe you have. Go back and watch my last video. I'll link in the description. They're having monumental heat already in India, to get back to that. We expect during an El Nino for the monsoon season in the South and Southeast Asia to be disrupted to some degree, and we expect more heat and dryness in these places. We haven't even gotten El Nino yet, just so you know. I mean, technically, we're in kind of the foothills. We're kind of sloping into the El Nino, and the meteorologists are going to downplay this as much as they can. They don't like to hear about super El Ninos in the future, gargantuan Godzilla El Ninos. They tease people who say it's a Godzilla El Nino. They tease people who say it's an off-the-charts El Nino. Well, anyway, fine. You do whatever you have to do. We're headed into uncharted territory. Historic El Nino. Now, they're claiming the last time we had a El Nino like this, and I'll just put this out there, It's interesting. The last time we had an El Nino like this was 1877. Now, this is going to be a bad one. We've had more recent strong El Ninos. I think it was the El Nino years of 96, 97, and then again in even maybe 82, 83, and then 2015 and 16 were strong El Ninos. We had another El Nino in 2023, but it was weak, and yet it changed planetary conditions. The 2023 El Nino kicked the planet into the side pocket, okay? 1877, there was enough disruption from that strong El Nino, which is, I think in this case, is a reconstruction. There was a lot of weather stations and weather science in 1877, so they probably have a lot of instrumental records. But also they can reconstruct conditions by looking at tree rings, animal populations, other proxies for massive climate change. 1877, they had a very strong El Nino, on a par with the one we're expecting this year. So, yes, you can go back to 2015, 2016, and 2023 and, see what happened in your neighborhood and get an idea of what is coming for you in the end of 2026 and into 2027. So that's a good exercise for you to do. But the real story, actually, you have to go back to 1877 now. This hasn't been in the news much up until now. I think meteorologists and historians are now having to take this shit seriously, okay? They didn't want to. They wanted to belittle it. They wanted, El Nino, whatever. We've seen El Nino. Oh, now they're taking shit seriously. Because this is looking like it's going to be bad, okay? How bad could it get? 1877, 150 million people died globally, attributable to El Nino. How did that happen? Starvation. Now, El Nino changes your climate. I just mentioned India and South Asia. It changes the monsoon, causes crop failures, causes drought. The heat alone causes deaths, but then you have starvation on top of that. Other places you get torrential rains, which also destroys the crops, oh, by the way, and can kill people by itself. Just torrential rains can cause people to drown, wash away villages and houses. But anyway, through all this. Oh, and then the heat itself. The heat can kill you, okay? Drought can kill you. Heat can kill you. Floods can kill you. And that's what El Nino brings. Some places flood. Some places are hot. Some places the crops fail, okay? 150 million. Yeah, that's a suspiciously round number, right? 150 million, exactly. Why wasn't it 151 million, huh? You're making shit up. Maybe it was 145 or 145.5 million. How do you know? Okay, yeah, it's all an estimate. Of course it is. But they have records. 1877. Now, we were pretty civilized back then, right? The British were in India. And people were keeping records, and ships were crossing the oceans, and there was a lot of trade, and there was a lot of ships and ports noticing people are starving over here and people are hot over there, and the ships would travel back and forth and carry all this data, right? Early climatology, early weather science, from which early science, everything we know now is based. So 1877, they knew. And they are now able to estimate that as many as 150 million people died. Now, will that happen this year, 2026 and 2027? No. I'll just say no. We've fast forward, right? It's been 150 years. Fast forward. We have better systems to save people. We have hospitals, right? India is covered with hospitals. And we have better forms of agriculture that are less susceptible to changes in weather. We have more agriculture than we used to have. We have more efficient agriculture. We use a lot of machines using diesel and artificial fertilizers to boost the crop. But on the other hand, how many people were there on Earth back in 1877? A billion? 1 billion? That's 1,000 million, right? Maybe a billion, maybe less. And now there's 8,000 million people, 8 billion people, actually over that. So here we are, fast forward 150 years. Yeah, sure. agriculture and hospitals and treatments and just health awareness about the heat and getting out of the heat and people, not having to be out in the fields all the time. That's improved. But at the same time, we have now 8,000 million people. So there you go. And this is a super duper flooper snooper El Nino. Laugh at me if you want to. That's fine. I don't care. What part of 8,000 million people will not be able to cope with this? Well, we're going to find out. Aren't we? We're going to find out. When's it going to hit? It's already hitting, folks. Record temperatures in places like Dubai. Dubai, a modern city. Oh, and they're blaming it on the urban heat island. And there's so much concrete and asphalt and glass buildings in Dubai. And it's, it's fully modern city. Air conditioning running, heating everything up, and all this asphalt and all this concrete and all these steel buildings and all these glass buildings. And of course, it's going to get hot. Oh, it's so hot in Dubai, but it's all a modern problem. Well, yeah, it's still a problem. And these are early days. It's still a problem, folks. I don't care about the urban heat island. It doesn't explain anything. It just exacerbates the problem that is explained through physics. Yeah, urban heat island, that's a thing. And that's why London got so freaking hot on Monday. Urban heat island effect. But it's happening because of global heating. It's happening because of the onset of El Nino. Oh, you can't know that. Fine, think whatever you want to think. Here we go. We're in the early days. In fact, while I have this map up, which I've been very carefully ignoring, let's look, shall we? I'm going to put this on the equatorial Pacific. I get 1.5 degrees C. Again, this map is anomalies. And the El Nino is an anomalous hot spell in the equatorial Pacific. So where I just clicked there on the equator in the central Pacific was 1.5. Let's go over here a little bit. This is 1.4. Okay, we'll go over here. This is 1.2. So it's obviously there's a hot spot over here. This is 1.4. Well, guess what, folks? We're deep into it now. The threshold for an actual El Nino to be statistically called, meaning we're calling it, right, is 0.5, half a degree C above average, a half a degree C anomaly. All across the equator here, I'm getting anomalies like 1.2, not 1/2, 1.2, 1.4, 1.3, a little bit to the east, 1.6. Here we go, folks. And it's May. This is not the peak of El Nino. This is not December, is it? This is not November. When the fishermen go out in their boat and it's Christmas Day and they throw the nets in, they pull the nets up and there's no fish, okay? El Nino, that El Nino that comes in December, that El Nino that started this whole ball rolling within the science community, that El Nino is happening in May. You see? You see the problem yet? Do you see the problem yet? The temperatures they're getting in London right now are hot, 35 degrees C. People say, well, we've had temperatures like that in London before. In fact, a couple of years ago, it broke 40 degrees C. Yeah, in August, all right? In August, not in the end of May. Come on, people. You got 3.5 pounds brain for a fucking reason. Use it, please. Thank you. So what's it going to be in August? Oh. Oh. Yeah, that's when you start listening to your climatologist, not your meteorologist, because that guy is going to throw you under the bus, baby. He doesn't want you to know anything. He wants to talk about how predictable this is, how we've done this before, how it's no big deal. It's just going to be weather because he works for who? Who? Why does he say these things? They were getting temperatures at Kew Gardens, breaking the maximum heat wave, set 40 years before, by the way, by 2 degrees C, okay? In May. In May. I got another story for you about how meteorologists are out to kill you. It was some years ago that the Met Office issued a report to Parliament, okay? Or maybe they give it to the King. I don't know who they give it to. And it was saying something like, wow, because of global heating, our really moderate, temperate, even cold side of temperate weather that we're so accustomed to here in the UK and in England in particular, it's going to get hot, folks. And then they made a prediction like, you want a number? Okay. We may exceed 40 degrees C in some part of England, some part of the UK. Probably England, right? The southern half. We're gonna exceed 40 degrees C one of these days in some part of England sometime in the future. Okay? The year 2100, year 2050, we may exceed 40 degrees C. It's going to get hot, folks. 40 degrees C is really hot for England. I mean, yeah, it'll be hot. It'll hot like that in Italy or Greece, but that's not England, right? We don't expect to have 40 degrees. So they said, well, it's going to be 40 degrees C in, average temperature in England on one of these days, one of these summers. We're going to hit 40 degrees C. Everyone was like, well, if I live that long, then it'll be a problem. But it's not my problem. It's going to be 100 years from now, 50, 100 years from now. What do I care? 2 weeks later. I mean, you knew where this was headed, right? Especially if you're from the UK. 2 weeks later, after issuing that report, it exceeded 40 degrees C by quite a bit. You see what's happening here? You see what's happening here? I see what's happening here. I know what's going on. I know what they're doing. Now, in fairness, the Met Office probably got a commission from, let's say, Parliament. And there's, okay, you have a responsibility to warn the people of the UK and England of what could be coming our way because of global heating. The people are not nearly focused on this enough. So you do your report and you tell us how bad it could get, so we can start thinking about this ahead of time, decades ahead of time. And so it probably took them 2 years to write the report, right? And then they were editing and writing and editing and reviewing and all this kind of stuff, right? Getting scientific opinions, do more editing, get more opinions, more editing still. And so after 2 years of coming out with this report, they issue it. And if they had just waited 2 more weeks, okay? If they just waited 2 more weeks, they could have changed their paper completely. What would they have said in their paper? Predicting that England would eventually exceed 40 degrees C on some summer day in the future. How would they have changed their paper? Well, they would have retracted it, first of all, because they'd look stupid publishing a paper on the day when it's 40 degrees C, okay? Or even 2 weeks before, which was what happened. They look stupid. They look retarded. They might even look evil if they wrote a paper and published it 2 weeks before it actually turned 40 degrees C. It would be almost like, dude, you're the Met Office. You should have known that your paper was going to be released pretty much at the same time as we were going across 40 degrees C. Did you do this on purpose? And then other people are going to think, oh, you caused it to be 40 degrees C. How exactly did the Met Office cause 40 degrees C to happen in as an average temperature in England? Just by writing a paper. No, it's a conspiracy. Oh, they did it. It was all their idea. If they hadn't talked about it, it wouldn't have happened. Rawr. Okay. Thank you for that. That was funny. Oh, yeah. More comedy, please. No, they didn't cause that by talking about it. But, of course, people blame them for causing it by talking about it. Anyway, what do I care? Not my responsibility. Do they make sense out of this for all these people? Early days. This is the end of May. It's the end of May. And we're already seeing these temperatures. This doesn't peak until November. And between here and November, there's a lot of summer, folks. There's a lot of summer. We have a marine heat wave that is not going away. Look at this map. Just look at this map. I'm sorry if you're just hearing audio. This map is a fucking nightmare. Okay, just look at this map, please, of ocean temperatures, and what do you see? It's all hot. It's a marine heat wave. We've got a marine heat wave going on. And they're going to downplay the El Nino aspect of all this because, and they won't talk about 1877. Things were different back then. And they won't talk about, 2023, which pitched the Earth dynamic system into the side pocket. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about 2015, 2016, or 2023, and we're not going to talk about this either, and this is going to happen anyway. Why? Because of physics, okay? The Earth dynamic system is made up of physical realities. And this is going to leave a mark. Now, James Hansen, who I think is probably, by and large, respected as the world's leading climatologist. He used to work for, was it NASA Goddard? Earth Systems Research, or was it NOAA? I can't remember now. I should know because I like the guy. Anyway, he's retired now, so it doesn't matter. He retired, but he still has a team. Okay, I don't know who's funding him, but he still has a team. He's still doing climate research. That James Hansen came out and said, 2023 made permanent changes. That El Nino, which was not a massive El Nino. It was like, yeah, a blip, okay? We had an El Nino. That El Nino, oh God, do I have to do this? Okay, what is it? Climate res. Let's do climate res. Let's do climate res. I'll show you this. Outlook forecast maps. No, that's not the one. And I've had this problem the last time I tried to do this. Outlook forecast maps. Okay, well, this is still okay. Let's look at this real quick. This is let's look at Europe. Here's the heat wave in Europe. On the right side are the anomalies. So blue means cold, red means hot, and as you can see, we're having heat. Right here in good old south of England, it's 8 degrees C above normal. And over here in France, it's 10. Down here in Spain, it's 10. So 8. I mean, you're not doing a whole lot better than Spain at this point. They're getting 10s and you're getting 8s. But what I was looking for was, let's go back here. Climate charts, daily surface air, sea, daily sea surface temperatures. Let's look at the sea surface temperature. So this is the data that kind of makes this picture. Okay, this is the sea surface temperature anomalies, and this is the sea surface temperature. This is instrumental temperature, but we can see what's going on here. There's a lot of squiggly lines on here because there's many years worth of data. There's like it goes back to like 2020 or 1983 or something, but I'm not going to show that far back. All I'm going to show you is what's going on here. 2023, let's light this one. So 2023 left the chart towards the end of the year. October, November, December, it left the chart. 2024 stayed kind of off the charts, came back in towards the end of the year. 2025, which was actually, was it the hottest or the second hottest year on record for the entire planet, was 2025. And please look what 2026 is doing. It is above the orange line, which is 2025. It's well above. And it's also trending about where 2023 was. Okay, so 2026 and 2023 are on about the same trajectory. 2023, that year, pitched the Earth dynamic system into the side pocket. Okay? And every year since has been hotter. Way hotter. Please look at this chart. Would you look at this chart? Look at all these years since 2023. Off the chart. Okay, top of the chart. Hey, technically it's still on the chart, but way, way off. And where's the average that we're supposed to be comparing to? Down here. This is supposed to be the average, folks. This is the average of all this data. Actually, it's 1991 to 2020, which is like super lame. Why would you include 2020? In your average? 2020 is deep into global heating. That's so lame. So let's look at 1982 to 2010, which is still deep into global heating, but I'll permit it. Okay, it's better than the other option. And look where the average is for 1982 to 2010. It's on the bottom of the chart, people. The average we're supposed to be comparing sea surface temperature to is on the bottom of the chart. It's on the bottom. 1982 to 2010 is where we're going to take our average. And that average is on the bottom of the chart. And now the data we're looking at, 2026, 2023, is off the top of the chart. Can you see this? And that's why we have this shit going on. Is this not obvious? Can you see what's happening? That all of these later years are off the chart, and the average is down here in retard category? And that's why we're having a global heat wave. Can you see this with your eyes? No, it's all fake. It's all a hoax. It's all fear mongering. Okay. I'm going to try to be nice about this, okay? Physics is coming for you. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I said it back in April. Go back and watch my video back in April if you want. If you want me losing my shit, okay? And now it's May. A little over a month later. Now it's May, and we are now in deep trouble. Early days of the coming super duper snooper schlooper El Nino, the Godzilla El Nino that the meteorologists refuse to talk about. That El Nino, we're in early days. It's May. It's May. Please. Please try to get on board with this, okay? It's May and we're already. The ocean temperatures are already off the chart. There they are, folks. And this region down here where we're calculating El Ninos, 1.4. The threshold is 0.5. We're not 1.4, 1.2 over here. 1.8. They're saying that we could exceed an anomalous temperature in the El Nino zone of 3 degrees. By what? August, September, October? Yeah, sure, the peak, sure. I have seen people analyzing this and trying to draw their charts for the expected peak El Nino, and they have to redraw their charts. They're having to go way above very strong, and they're having to go into mythical levels of intensity. The first one I saw was uncharted El Nino. And I laughed about that. I said, well, that guy's going to have a problem. He didn't talk about it, by the way. He just had on his chart. He just had somewhere up at the top of the chart. If you get up to this height, it's an uncharted El Nino. I thought, well, that was forward thinking of him. And then he came back a month later with the same chart. He had to add another level. Historic El Nino. So we go from very strong El Nino, which people are laughing at now. Ha ha, we'll be lucky if it ever gets that high. We're already talking about uncharted El Ninos and then historic El Ninos. And then we're thinking about 1877. And then we're thinking about 150 million people. Okay. Well, so that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting. You have to admit it's interesting. Maybe it doesn't happen. But this is happening, right? Marine heat waves. This is happening. Data from the El Nino region is 1.2, 1.4, and it's May. When is this going to peak? I don't know. What's it going to be? I don't know. I'm a little worried. I'm not worried for me. I live next to the Pacific Ocean on the cool side. I expect I'll be fine. But I wouldn't want to be living in England, south of England, right now. I wouldn't want to live in London. I wouldn't want to live in the English countryside around London. I wouldn't want to live anywhere in India, especially South India and Central India. Wouldn't want to live in New Delhi. I wouldn't want to live anywhere in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines. I wouldn't want to live in Australia. Why? Because it's going to burn, folks. It's going to burn like you can't imagine burning. It's going to get hot like you can't imagine getting hot. You can't know these things, Cougar. You're right. We don't know anything for sure. 1877. And in 2023, when we had a little El Nino, still managed to pitch the Earth dynamic system into this realm, okay, where we will never again see the 1982 to 2010 average. The 1982 to 2010 average is now in retarded category. It's like, bye-bye. We'll never see you again. We'll never see that average again. Those are the good days. And some of that data is actually well into the global heating era, 2010. And you can see what the average from 1991 to 2020 is calculated at. Well higher than the earlier average of 1982 to 2010. And guess what it'll be when they calculate it again, which they will have to do. They will have to do that because this, what's going on here with these years, 2023, 4, 5, 2026, still shaping up. This is nightmare territory. And the only way they can drag this back into normality is to move the baseline, move the average, which they will do. And then they'll come back and they'll say, well, yeah, 2023 kicked the Earth dynamic system into the side pocket. But look, it's not that far from the average because they will have moved the average up to, let me pick a line, 2018. How about this line? Okay, they'll move the average by recalculating it because this is math. Okay, they'll recalculate the average so that they get an average closer to what the data was like in 2018. They'll do that. They've already done it before. We have two averages here. You see this? You see what's going on here? We have two averages. And guess why they calculated the later one? Because it would be higher and easier to make comments about. Because it's not so dire. The 1982 to 2010 average is like off the bottom of the chart at this point, people, because of what the data did. This average from 1982 to 2010 is off the bottom of the chart, and that's bad. You can't have your average being off the bottom of the chart, for fuck's sake. So they made a new one, 1991 to 2020, and that's a little further up the chart. But now it's going to be off the bottom of the chart because the planet is heating constantly. Every year is worse than the year before. So they're going to have to recalculate the average again. And when they do, I'll predict already, right now, I'm going to predict right now, it's going to be coming in somewhere like this 2018 line. They're going to recalculate the average so it looks more like 2018. And then they'll talk about the average being that line. And then 2023 and 2024 and 2025, and of course, whatever 26 is going to turn out to be, won't look so bad because we moved the average. But physics doesn't care where you put the average. Yes, you can do that mathematically. Yes, you can talk about it. Yes, you can con people into thinking that means something. But physics doesn't care. 1877 happened. Right? Or did I just make that up? 150 million people died in 1877 due to El Nino. Or did I just make that up? Well, why would I do that? That's the talk going on now. And why is that talk going on now and not, say, in April when I did my last video? Why are we now, 1 month later? It's just been 1 month, people. 1 month. It's been one little month. A little over 30 days. And all of a sudden, the talk is about, well, you know, the last time we had an El Nino like this one was in 1877. 150 million people died. They didn't have to bring that up, did they? I didn't know that. You didn't know that. You're only knowing it now because I happened to mention it. No one else is going to mention it. You'll never hear that. But that's what the scientists are talking about. And why are the scientists talking about that? Because they want you to know. They're trying to give you some way to estimate ahead of time what you're headed into. What you're headed into. You're headed into something that's going to be a meat grinder. I'm telling you that. It's going to be a meat grinder. And how many people are going to die? I don't know. Do I even care? That's none of my business. I can't do anything about that. And so people are going to die. Marvelous. Wonderful. Whatever. Here we go. All right, here we go. So I came on here to update you about the El Nino and the things that are happening already. Record heat waves. Fatalities are beginning to come in. People are worried about crop failures in the heat and the drought and the lack of water, and of course because of the kerfuffle in the Persian Gulf. Now we have lack of fuel and lack of fertilizer. So if you weren't lacking enough things already, well, now you're going to be up Schitt's Creek without a paddle on lots of reasons. And this is called a polycrisis, just so we understand what we're talking about here. This is a polycrisis. And the polycrisis will now extend itself out from well, price of gasoline, I hate this, to, oh, no, now there's no gasoline, and there's no diesel, and there's no fertilizer, to, wow, I can't plant my crops. Or maybe I could plant them, but then they didn't flourish because I didn't have fertilizer or water. Well, they did kind of flourish, and I kind of got a harvest, but I can't really move it around because I don't have any diesel, or diesel is too expensive. And then when it does get processed and turned into bread or cookies or crackers or whatever, well, then the price of those things on the shelf is going to be so expensive you can't afford it. When's all this going to happen? Tomorrow? Because we're in for it at this point. And we're already in it. Have you bought gas, diesel, or petrol lately? Maybe not. But if you have, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, that's all fake and that's all a hoax and it's price gouging and they can do it differently and blah, rah, rah. Okay, well, fine. But they didn't, did they? No, they didn't. And the farmers are going to complain. Oh, the diesel, the price of fertilizers, the price of water to irrigate. I can't pay it. I can't do it. I'm just going to not plant anything. You people can starve. I don't even care. Well, is that a hoax? No. And that's what they're doing. So why am I bringing all this up? Why do I do this? Why do I come on here once a month, once every year, something like that, and say all these terrible things? Because I want you to know. That's a good enough reason for me. I want you to know. You should know. Back in 1877, they didn't know. People didn't know. And maybe some of those people that died could have saved themselves if they knew what was coming. Maybe not. Maybe it made no difference. And maybe it won't make any difference this time. But I can tell you one thing I have noticed. The meteorologists are not talking turkey on this subject. They're not being square with you. And they're not going to be. What are they going to say? I mean, last Monday they had to report that at Kew Gardens in England, it was 2 degrees C above the record, not above average, above the last record, 2 full degrees C above the last record, and it's going to be hotter than that the day after and hotter than that today. And then if you go over to France across the channel, people are dying from the heat. Okay? Now, they'll report those deaths, and they'll report those events, and they'll report the fishing failures, and they'll report the crop failures, but they'll report them as events. I had a crop failure. Expect prices for food to be higher. And they had a problem getting diesel. Expect price of diesel to be higher. Oh, well, now diesel isn't even available. They'll report these things. They'll never tie them together for you. So will you be aware? Will you be able to save yourself? I don't know. I guess not. I guess not. You won't be. You'll hear the guy, your uncle, your crazy uncle who says everything is a hoax. You'll listen to him, and that'll sound good to you because it sounds good if it's not scary. It's a hoax? Oh, phew. Well, that's a relief. So we didn't really have a record temperature. That was all a hoax. They made that up. That was all AI fake. That was all AI slop. Oh, phew. Wow. It looked pretty real to me. Yeah. You mean people weren't going down to the beach and trying to get cool because of the heat? They weren't actually doing that. That was all AI slop. Phew. Well, I'm glad to hear. No one really had any problems. They didn't have to flee the heat. Phew. What a relief. And then the heat is there anyway. Because the heat doesn't go away just because your crazy uncle says it's all a hoax and you're like, wow, that's the right story for me. I'll be relieved. Phew, what a relief. I was kind of worried there for a minute, but my crazy uncle says it's all a hoax and, Trump is right about everything. And so I'm not going to worry. Wow, that's a relief to me. I guess I don't have to worry. So I won't worry because I don't want to worry. I don't want to hear a scary thing. I don't want to worry. And they'll be, oh boy, that's a real relief to me. Wow. My crazy uncle, he knows everything. And physics doesn't care. Doesn't care. Will we save ourselves from global heating? Nope. We will not. Could we? Maybe 70 years ago, maybe we could. I don't know. Maybe it was too late even then. But yeah, I'd like to think maybe 70, maybe even 50 years ago we could have saved ourselves. But now, no. No, you're in trouble now. You're going to go wherever this takes you. I'm going to go there with you. No. We can sit on some bench somewhere in 130 degrees Fahrenheit and share a bottle of water and wonder what happened to the world. Well, we'll know. We'll know what happened to the world, won't we? We'll sit on that bench in the shade and drink that water and eat the last peanut butter and jelly sandwich any of us could come up with, and we'll say, yeah, what happened to the world? You and I will know. We will know what happened to the world. Does that do us any good? No, not really. Could we save ourselves from it? No, not really. Does it give you any satisfaction knowing what's happening to the world? Probably not. Unsubscribe, downvote the video, don't hype the video, don't talk to any of your friends, don't worry about the future, don't care about the El Nino, it's all hyped, it's all a hoax, and yeah, walk away from here, and I'm going to walk away from here too, and I'm not going to be back on here for a month, right? Because I got other things to do. And they're more important to me than this. Because it doesn't matter. If you want more of stuff that doesn't matter, like and subscribe. And I'll come back on here, I don't know, in a week or a month. When there's 1 million people dead in India, I'll come back on here and I'll say there's 1 million people dead in India. And if you didn't hear it from me, you wouldn't have heard it. And you won't believe it when I tell you. But 1877 happened, folks. And this is a super duper snooper flooper Godzilla El Nino. And it's going to pitch us into the side pocket where we are going to stay. And I guess we'll have a conversation then, won't we? Yeah, well, that'll be the day we have that conversation. In the meantime, so that we can have that conversation, don't die.